Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, I must admit I'm a bit experienced in giving speeches, and I'm never nervous. Every 2 years it's different for one day, and that is today when I open my own conference. But I'm so happy you are all here. I welcome you all. First of all, our State Secretary, Thomas Steffen, who will in fact open the conference with a view from the Ministry of Economics and Energy. Vice President Teresa Ribera will be with us. I met her already, so she's here, and we will listen to her speech. And I welcome you all, colleagues, friends from near, from far. I know that some of you have traveled long distances in these times where it is not so easy to travel. We know all this. We were lucky enough that Lufthansa is on strike also. In fact, during every conference, someone is on strike, and we know this very well. So a warm welcome to the 23rd competition, International Conference on Competition here in Berlin. I'm so happy that we meet here these days. Of course, as I said last night already in the Nolle, one might wonder, is it the right time to have such a conference? It's not easy to travel. We have these wars around us. We have trade wars around us. But I think all the more it is important to meet and to make the point that competition is crucial if we want to keep up competitiveness, growth, and welfare for European citizens. And I think this is what matters so much. And this is what we also need to make clear during these turbulent times. If this conference would have a headline, it would be Competition Law in Times of Maximum Change. Sometimes I'm a bit worried that the change that we see comes a bit too fast. Sometimes I'm worried that we see a bit too much of a change at the same time. But it's useless to complain. We have to deal with it. Lament does not take us further. As we say in Cologne, het kut wie het kut. I've been looking for an English translation of that. Maybe it is like it is, but it's not very catchy, I guess, but I think this is the way we could put it. So anyway, we have to deal with it. We have to deal with these geopolitical tensions. We have to deal with these two wars that are taking our breath. Ukraine is very near. The war in Iran feels very near. We have other disruptions with regard to AI that is even shaking through the not so old digital markets. Who had thought of that 2 or 3 years ago, that even digital markets would be shaken through by AI. There is this new ambition in Europe for a competitive, sovereign and resilient Europe. We see more and more that economic power, control over critical infrastructure and access to essential resources are more and more openly used as a means of power, not only by countries, but only by companies, of course, from time to time. And of course, what is worrying us as competition agencies is the fact that the competitive process is more and more subject to state action and state intervention, and it is clear that companies have to adjust their strategies. And this is why our first panel will be on competition law meets geopolitics. How do we balance open markets and trade with industrial policy and resilience? How can we safeguard fair competition in markets that are shaped more and more by geopolitical and industrial policy interests? How can we preserve open markets in a world of strategic rivalry? I'm very happy that we are having René Obermann with us today, who will give us an industry perspective from various views and various angles. Mr. Obermann will be here to open that debate for us. Then we are talking about navigating AI. That is transforming us as profoundly as well. It changes business models, it changes value change. It changes complex ecosystems, digital ecosystems, and the question is how we are dealing with that. AI will foster innovation. Yes, AI will increase efficiency and it will create and open markets. But I'm afraid, I'm very much afraid, that at the same time it will reinforce dominance, it will deepen dependencies, and it will reduce transparency. AI agents monitor markets, they adjust prices in real time, they act autonomously across platforms. And of course, then the question arises, how do competition agencies identify new forms of market power? How do we prevent foreclosing strategies? How do we keep enforcement effective? We're very happy that we're going to have Tim Höttges, the CEO of Deutsche Telekom, who will give an introduction to this topic as well. And we talk about regulation. We need to talk about regulation. Our regulatory framework in Europe is under scrutiny. Regulation and bureaucracy have reached a very high level. And to reduce regulation, to reduce bureaucracy will be key to regain competitiveness in Europe. And believe it or not, even we suffer from bureaucracy because it makes our proceedings slow. So even bureaucrats suffer from bureaucracy. We know what companies feel like and how they have to deal with it. It's a problem for all companies, big or small, maybe for startups even a little bit more. At the same time, it would be too easy to see every regulation as blocking. There is blocking regulation, but there's also enabling regulation. And here I would say the DMA, strong abuse control, Section 19A here in Germany, clearly belong to this category of enabling regulation, and we must enforce it vigilantly. So the question for our panel is going to be, are regulation and is competition opposing forces? We will talk about independence of competition agencies. If policy takes over to a certain extent, independence is crucial. And we are very honored that Stefan Habert, the president of the Constitutional Court of Germany, is going to give an introduction. He will offer a constitutional and a rule of law perspective tomorrow morning. It is extremely expensive. It's extremely important. It's extremely important for us as competition agencies that we act in both ways, independent, and that what we do is based on the rule of law. And I want to continue to live in a world that a client enters a law firm and asks, how do we get the deal through based on law and economics? And I do not want to live in a world where the client comes in and asks simply, whom do I have to call? That is the opposite of the rule of law. That is the opposite of independence. And I think it's of utmost importance that we preserve this independence on the one side and the fact that we always act based on the rule of law. These tensions become particularly visible in merger control. Around the world, there's a growing pressure to integrate industrial, structural, sustainability objectives into merger control. Innovation, global competitiveness, resilience, digital sovereignty, all these topics increasingly shape the debate when it comes to mergers. So the question is, put on the table, should merger control remain a neutral framework focused on competition, or should it be considered to be a broader economic concept? We have 38 speakers from 17 different nations. We have 50 active participants in this room, including yesterday's workshop we had for younger competition agencies, a high-quality workshop. It was really good. There are more than 60 countries sitting in this room, and I'm very happy to see so many familiar and so many new faces. You cannot do such a conference without support. My sincere thanks go to Ingo Brinker and the Studienvereinigung Kartellrecht, the German Competition Law Association, and its members for their constant and helpful support. My thanks go to the Konrad Adenauer Foundation also for their generous support, and to the Federal Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development, who have very much supported our yesterday's workshop and are going to hold another event on Friday. So having said that, my introduction for the conference, it's a great pleasure for me to welcome Thomas Steffen from the Ministry of Economics and Energy to give us the insight from the ministry, from the German government. Mr. Steffen, the floor is yours.